Her name, at least the one she's using now, is Clara. Clara shows up at the Valentino estate on a rainy Tuesday morning, soaking wet, clutching a single bag, and answering a job listing for a live-in maid. She's quiet. Keeps her head down. Pulls her hair low over her face like she's trying to disappear into herself. The head housekeeper, an older woman named Mrs. Park, looks her over and says, "You look like you've been through something." Clara just smiles and says, "Haven't we all?" She gets the job. Now, the Valentino estate is not a home. It is a fortress. Steel gates. Security cameras on every corner. Guards who rotate every 6 hours. This is the private residence of Damiano Valentino, one of the most feared men in the criminal underworld. His empire spans 3 continents. His name alone is enough to clear a room. People who cross him don't get second chances. They just disappear. Clara knows all of this. And she takes the job anyway. That first week, she's invisible. She cleans. She serves. She avoids eye contact with Damiano whenever he passes through. And he never looks at her. Not once. She's just another face in a staff of 20. But here's what nobody in that house knows. Clara isn't just some desperate woman looking for work. She's running. And the thing she's running from might already be inside those gates. On her 3rd night, Clara is cleaning the East Wing hallway. And she almost drops the mop. Because hanging on the wall, in a heavy gold frame, is a portrait. A wedding photo. A man and a woman, laughing, completely unguarded in a way that feels almost painful to look at. The man is Damiano. Younger. Softer. Something alive in his eyes. The woman is her. Clara stands in that hallway for a full minute. Not breathing. Her hand pressed flat against the wall to keep from collapsing. She knew this was his house. But seeing that photo, seeing herself on his wall after all this time, that's when the reality of what she's done fully lands. She made a choice 2 years ago. And that choice is standing in this hallway with her right now. Keep reading, because the reason she left is going to change how you see everything that comes after. Let's talk about Damiano for a second. Because the internet, and his enemies, will tell you he's a monster. Ruthless. Untouchable. A man who built an empire on fear and strategy and a complete refusal to lose. And none of that is wrong. But what the stories leave out is the year after his wife disappeared. The official version? Ilara Valentino vanished. No note. No warning. No body. Just gone. The rumor mill ran wild. Some people said she'd been taken by a rival family. Some said she ran. And a very small, very quiet group of people said Damiano did something to her himself. He heard every single one of those rumors. And instead of going dark, instead of collapsing inward the way people expected, he became colder. More controlled. More dangerous. He fired 3 bodyguards the week she disappeared. Rebuilt his entire inner circle from scratch. And he started asking questions that nobody wanted to answer. His right-hand man, a man named Renzo, watched the whole transformation and told someone privately he didn't grieve. He weaponized it. The search for Ilara became obsessive. Then it went cold. Then it became something he carried quietly, like a stone in his chest, while the rest of the world moved on. And now, without knowing it, he's hired her to clean his kitchen. 2 months into the job, something shifts. Clara is careful. Disciplined. She's built an entire second identity, different name, dyed hair, colored contacts. She's thought through every detail. But she hasn't thought through this, what it would feel like to be near him again. She watches him from across rooms. The way he reads documents at the dining table without looking up. The way he takes his coffee, no sugar, always too hot, like he doesn't feel temperature the same way normal people do. The way he snaps at staff and then, without ever apologizing, quietly doubles their year-end bonus. She remembers all of it. And she hates that she remembers. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about leaving someone you love. Sometimes you don't leave because you stopped loving them. Sometimes you leave because you found out something that made staying impossible. She found something, 2 years ago. Something she was never supposed to see. And we're going to get to what that was. But first, you need to know about the moment everything almost unraveled. 4 months in, Clara is starting to show. Not enough that a stranger would notice. But enough that her uniform is getting tight. Enough that Mrs. Park caught her pressing a hand against her stomach in the laundry room and gave her a long, knowing look. Clara swore her to silence. Mrs. Park, who had grandchildren of her own and a soft heart buried under 30 years of professional distance, agreed. For now. But keeping a pregnancy secret in a house with this many staff members, this many cameras, this much attention, it's a countdown. And Clara knows it. What makes it worse? The baby is Damiano's. She found out she was pregnant 3 weeks after she fled. And the cruelty of that timing has never left her. She's carrying the child of the man she ran from. The man she still, against every logical thought in her head, loves. She has a plan. Work long enough to save money. Disappear before she's too far along. Find somewhere small and quiet and far away, and raise this child alone, and never ever look back. That's the plan. Plans don't survive contact with Damiano Valentino. It happens on an ordinary Wednesday. Clara is serving dinner during a meeting. For men around the table, documents spread everywhere, tension so thick you could taste it. She's pouring water, keeping her face completely neutral, when Damiano looks up. Not at the room. At her. Not the way bosses look at staff. Something else. Something sharper. Like a man who's just heard a familiar song from another room and can't quite place it. Clara keeps pouring. Doesn't blink. Doesn't breathe. Damiano says nothing. Looks back at his documents. But after she leaves the room, she hears him say to Renzo, quietly, almost to himself, "Who is that woman?" And Renzo says, "The new maid, sir. Clara. Started about 4 months ago. Clean record. No red flags." There's a pause. Then Damiano says, "Have someone pull her file." Clara is in the hallway when she hears this. Clara is in the hallway when she hears this. And she does the only thing she can do in that moment. She keeps walking. Head down. Heartbeat absolutely deafening. The clock just started ticking. Now we need to go back. Because you deserve to know why she ran. 2 years ago, Ilara Valentino was not a maid. She was the wife of one of the most powerful men in Europe. She had a life that looked from the outside like a fairy tale, the kind of story people build whole fantasy worlds around. But fairy tales have a dark room that the tour guide doesn't show you. Ilara found hers by accident. A folder left open on Damiano's private server. A name she recognized. A transaction she couldn't explain. What she found was evidence, detailed, documented, undeniable evidence, that the accident that killed her younger brother 3 years earlier wasn't an accident. There was a name attached to the order. And that name was someone in Damiano's inner circle. What she couldn't figure out, what she still doesn't know, is whether Damiano knew. Whether the man she married, the man she loved, had any part in her brother's death. Or whether he was as blind to it as she was. She was too afraid to ask. Too afraid of what the answer might be. So she ran. And now she's pregnant with his child, cleaning his house, and the man who might have ordered her brother's death is still sitting at that dinner table. This story just changed shape completely, didn't it? And then, the thing in the title happens. Mrs. Park calls Clara into the office on a Thursday morning. She looks uncomfortable. Guilty, almost. Damiano has requested that Clara be let go. Effective immediately. No reason given. No incident cited. Just dismissed. Mrs. Park presses an envelope into her hands, 3 months' salary, which is more than the policy requires, and says quietly, "I'm sorry, dear. I don't know what happened." Clara walks to her room. Sits on the edge of the bed. Looks at her hands. She's 4.5 months pregnant. She has nowhere to go. The money will last maybe 2 months if she's careful. And the file Damiano had pulled on her, the background check, was clean, but it was only a matter of time before someone dug deeper. She should be relieved. She's out. This is what she wanted. So why does it feel like the ground just dropped out from under her? She starts packing. And that's when someone knocks on her door. Not Mrs. Park. Renzo. He says, "Mr. Valentino would like a word before you leave." The walk to Damiano's study is the longest of her life. She's rehearsed this scenario. Every version of it. But none of her rehearsals included being 5 months pregnant, wearing a maid's uniform, carrying a severance envelope, and walking into the room where the man she's been hiding from is sitting behind a desk looking at her like he's been solving a puzzle and just found the last piece. He doesn't say anything at first. He just looks at her for a long time. Then he says, "Take off the contacts." Clara doesn't move. He says softer, almost dangerously soft, "Elara." And that's it. That's the whole thing. One word. Her real name, in his voice, after 2 years. She doesn't cry. She's past crying. She just lifts her chin and looks at him and says, "I need you to let me walk out of here." He stands up. And she sees it then, the thing she couldn't see from across rooms. He looks exhausted. Not physically. Something deeper. Like a man who has been holding a breath for 2 years and is only now realizing he can release it. He says, "You've been here for 4 months." She says, "Yes." He says, "Why?" And she says the truest thing she's said in 2 years, "I needed to know if you were the man I married. Or someone else." The room is completely silent. Then his eyes drop, just for a second, to her stomach. And the silence changes quality entirely. Here's where you probably think you know what happens. He's the ruthless mafia boss. She deceived him. She hid his child. She disappeared for 2 years without a word. By every rule of this world, his world, she should be terrified of what comes next. But Damiano Valentino does something nobody in that house would have predicted. He walks around the desk. Stops in front of her. And he goes completely still, like a man dismantling himself from the inside out in real time. And then very quietly he says, "Who told you about your brother?" The blood drains from her face. Because she never told him that. She never told anyone. She just left. Which means Damiano knew. He knew about her brother. He knew about the folder. He knew she'd found it. And he's been looking for her for 2 years. Not to silence her. To explain. The thing Clara believed, the thing that drove her out of this house across countries into a maid's uniform, is only half the truth. And the other half is going to completely change everything you thought this story was about. Don't close this yet. So here's where we are. Elara is standing in the study of the man she married, the man she ran from, the man she never stopped loving, carrying his child, holding 2 years of secrets, and finding out that the story she built her entire escape on was missing a chapter. Damiano didn't order her brother's death. But he knows who did. And the reason he never came forward, the reason it's buried in a file on a private server, is because the person responsible is someone Elara trusts completely. Someone who's been by her side since before the marriage. Someone who, right now, has no idea that the woman they thought disappeared forever has been living in this house for 4 months. Who do you think betrayed Elara? The person closest to her, or someone inside Damiano's own empire? And most importantly, should she stay? Drop your theory in the comments. I read every single one. And if this video gets enough responses, I'll drop the continuation this week, because I already have it written, and what happens next is going to absolutely break you. See you then.